I'm so pleased that you're able to come over to my place here in San Francisco.
I'm so happy to be here.
Oh yeah, and my wife's colleague Jared has sent me a link to just a beautiful video of you playing, and said you just had a lovely time hearing you recently here in San Francisco, and so we connected, and then it turns out you're back here in San Francisco, and I'm so glad to actually sit down in person, and you've got your bass, or you've got a bass, and so just thank you so much for coming over and taking some time.
No, thank you for inviting me. I'm so glad to be here. And so, as I told you, I don't know many musicians in San Francisco, though. I'm so happy to have something to talk about basses and about music. It's so exciting for me. So I'm having a lovely time.
Yeah. Well, and as we're chatting, it turns out we have some mutual friends, Christian Esquivel, and maybe we could start just with your background from Argentina, and just talk about how you got into music and into the double bass.
Well, actually, my father was a doctor, and he was a guitar player, and he loved tango, and he loved folklore, Argentinian folklore. And he loved also ragtime and foxtrots, and I love a lot of Brazilian music. And he came from work and he says, "Yeah, let's play together." And I am left-handed actually, so we have a left-handed guitar and a right-handed guitar, and we play together. And he just introduced me in the world of the Bohemian music, because I grew up in a very small village. And people came at that time with horses to my house to play to play bandoneon. And in front of my house was a kind of a little grocery store where everybody comes with horses and drink wine and ginger and play. And so I grew up in that kind of atmosphere. And then I had a scholarship to study here in high school, and I thought, wow, I want to learn some jazz. So I was taking some lessons, guitar lessons, and then I hear in the other room something zooming, I say, what is that, And well, the girl who was my teacher at that time, she was engaged with a bass player. So I opened the door and I see this guy's playing the bass. I say, well, I want that. I don't know what it is, but I want that. And so I came back to Argentina after a year, and my father said, well, I have a friend who might have a bass, was, very basic bass, has only one string or so, and I use it like a drum for a half a year, and then I find strings and I put strings on it, and I fall in love with the instrument. I fell in love with the instrument, and afterwards, I decided to travel a little bit, or kind of long time, and I end up in Amsterdam, in Holland, and I was playing this little charango in the streets, in restaurants, and then I met a Mexican guy. He says that he was playing also at the restaurant Mexican music, and he said, I came from Mexico to study with a very famous bass player here in Holland, in Amsterdam. He teaches at the Rotterdam Conservatorium, and his name is Hans Rulofsen. I said, well, do you think that he will be able to meet me? And she said, yes, call him, And I called him, Hans. I called him. At that time, he lived in the boat at the Amstel River, freezing cold. And he said, well, I have 2 little daughters, and if you can, babysit them sometime, I can give you a lesson, and I can prepare you to get into the conservatorium, because my level was more than basic. And so he started teaching me double bass there, and then I got into the conservatorium. I studied there for almost 5 years, and while I was in Amsterdam, I met all these guys who were very into tango, and they wanted to make a band. And I say, well, I would love to play with you guys. So I start playing with them, and the band got very, very famous, Xeto Canjengue, it's called. And the strange thing was, because I'm from Cordoba. In Cordoba, it's kind of a different world from Buenos Aires. We have tango, of course, but influence, and we play tango very well, but we don't know, we don't have contact with musicians from Buenos Aires. And at that time, just by chance, the manager, who was our manager, was manager of Pugliese and Piazzolla. And I was playing a concert sometime near Utrecht, and the manager, Lucho was his name, he called me up and said, hey, Gustavo, what are you doing? Well, I just finished playing a concert. I said, I need you to rush to Den Haag and bring your bass because we rent a bass and we have a concert with Astor Piazzolla and the bass is broken in the neck.
Oh no.
Please come. So I just, under the rain, I bike to the train station and hit the hack. And when I came, there was Astor Piazzolla waiting for me in the back of the theater.
Oh,
Say,
my
oh,
goodness.
that's nice that you came. So, and I, I fell in love with that music. They has this beautiful quintet at that time, and that's how I started playing tango properly, because I haven't seen before a bass player playing tango. And I talked to Console, that was the bass player at the time. I said, I want you to teach me because I don't know anything about it. I play tango, but I pretend. And he said, well, first you have to have this Rosen, the pops, that is very sticky and has a very dark sound, because if you wanted to, you to do something very, you need very sticky.
Yep.
Okay. And then he say, you need a lot of power. There's not virtuos, not many notes, but so you have to use a lot of double strings. If you get a D, you just use both the strings, and let the bow clap always, because we like that, the percussion thing, like that kind of effect, and all this glissando. So I learned, and I say, well, you want to keep renting the bass for us? I said, I would love to rent the bass if I can travel with you guys. So at that time I was selling the CDs to them, and I learning all the time. So that was my experience. And then I had a beautiful experience with Osvaldo Pugliese. That is the other icono of the Argentinian tango. And the bass player who played at the time was a very nice guy, and he taught me a lot of things. And at the end of the concert, we played with my orchestra and their orchestra together. So and we toured around Holland, and that was an incredible spiritual experience to be near Osvaldo. So that was the beginning of my tango career. And meanwhile, I lived in Amsterdam just beside the Beam House, that is the jazz club of Amsterdam at the time. Now they moved near the port, but at that time there was the club, and so I knew everybody there, and I was going every day for the jam sessions and to the concerts. And my house was like your house, has two huge windows, a little space, much smaller than this. So I saw all the musicians, walking, all the, Hermeto Pascual goes there, hey, Charlie Hayden is going, oh, Bill Frisell is going, and I was, this is my dream, and I just started learning jazz just for listening. I never studied jazz properly and academically, but just listening, experimenting, and that's so I got into of the musical world of the jazz through tango, because tango was always very important for the jazz musician. They love tango, so they kind of invite us to the jazz festivals to play, and I start playing jazz through tango. That was weird, all the top players that I always admire in Holland say, hey, we need somebody to play with the bow and do something different. And I start composing. I start composing on the bass because I said, well, that's nice. I was learning different languages of music, and then that's how I started composing music on the bass.
Well, what a great set of influences to get going with tango. What an interesting entryway into jazz. I've done just a little bit of tango playing myself, but it was so. I was playing a concert here in San Francisco, and a friend of mine who does more tango playing, he was showing me some of the techniques, and it was just so interesting how you are the percussion section. I mean, there's no drummer in the tango band traditionally, and so all those, and then also how it integrates with the left hand of the piano, and just like those are the boom, boom, and just those very specific language that the tango bass player has. Yeah, like Pops Rosin is very helpful, I've heard.
Yeah, yeah, it's not my favorite Rosin for playing my thing, but for playing tango is fine. It's great. Yeah. And they used to use gut strings. And I tried them for a time, but it was so difficult to play them in tune, to tune them up, especially in Holland, because it's below zero outside, and you come inside and it's hitting exploding and the strings so never in tune. I love the sound because it has really special sound, but it was difficult to tune. Especially if you play melodies in the high positions, then it doesn't sound right. But I love this, you know, surrounding effect that creates that strings. Also in old music, you know, Baroque or so. I love it. But I had that problem with tuning.
Yeah, gut strings have such a special sound, but they're just the practicality. It gets just so challenging, like in weather and going from cold and humid and indoors and dry. And, yeah, but what a great place to be. I mean, what a dynamic jazz scene Holland has had for years. I mean, it seems just like what a great, exciting mix of players and styles in Europe. It's just a lovely place.
Yeah, I was at the right time, you know, at the right moment. Yeah. Because everything was booming at that time, and also the dance, you know, contemporary dance was also booming at that time. So I saw a lot of experiment, you know, mixing music with dancing and all the minimalism movement was at that time too, and punk, and suddenly, you know, was you know, John Zorn coming with Bill Frisell, and there were all three of us watching the show, you know. And one time I won't forget, I was with my girlfriend. I had a girlfriend at that time, and we came to see Bill Frisell, and we were both of us at the beginning. Nobody was. And Bill asked me, "Hey, where are you guys from?" I said, "Well, we are from Argentina." I came from New York to Amsterdam to play for Argentina. So, okay, let's go.
That's so cool.
And this kind of situation that were, you know, long ago, but really make an impression in my life, you know. And I will never forget those beautiful years. I lived there for 10 years.
Wow.
Yes, because I kept working. I always missed Argentina. I always wanted to go back, but I didn't have the chance to think about it because I was always busy, you know, playing, and so that's why it took me so long to go back. The weather was a little problem there because, you know,
it's a great place. The weather maybe not the highest.
Well, it's another chapter to talk about it.
What does your life look like now? Because it seems like you're doing all sorts of interesting playing and composing. I've really enjoyed the listening I've done of your solo playing too. It's just really lovely. And yeah, you have this orchestral background. You have this tango background, this jazz composition background and performing background. So like, yeah, what do your projects look like right now these days?
I always like to play double bass alone, and normally I used to use a lot of effects, you know, electronic effects, distortions and delays and reverbs and so on. And then I realized that if I imagine the sound in my head of the distortion, let's say, and I can play imagining it, I can create something different with the acoustic sound. So I'm trying to create those emotions without the electronica. Also because I'm tired of carrying. You know? You have to carry the seat, you have to carry this. When you realize you create cables, mixers, it's a lot of things. So I want to make it my life more easier.
It's so interesting though. Like I think people that have explored electronics, there's a composer and bass player here in the States named Sam Suggs. He intentionally writes pieces that sound like there's looping, but there's not. And I think that distortion is an interesting thing too, because like we can get so many of those timbres with the bow. So maybe experimenting with pedals and effects, and that you have that in your mind, and then you realize you can create it acoustically. I think it's so interesting what you can do on your own.
Exactly. And then I used to compose a lot of pieces with voice. Then I began using the pieces with voice, with distortion. If you put a microphone that takes the distortion and you sing here, that takes the distortion of the instrument. So you can play like, let's go for let's go
Oh,
you
wow.
know? And that goes into the spectrum. And I say, wow, that's nice, you know.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
And there's very punk rock influence in that
Yes,
right there.
thank you.
Oh,
So you
that's-
can create your powerful music that way.
Wow, wow! I need to experiment with that. That's my next project.
Yes, yes. It's very, very, very nice to do that. And also delays, you know, delays always help you to maintain the floating sound of the instrument, and you can do things upon it. I'm not very good, you know, over recording. How you call it when you play with something pre-recorded.
Oh right, yeah.
But I like delays and reverbs that makes the sound, you know, floating, and then you can experiment of that. High pieces like that, for instance. And so with the delay, you have this easy scissor to, you know, you play like,
Oh yeah.
and then it creates another music.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's great. And we were talking when you arrived here about this wonderful bass that you've ended up with here in San
Yes.
Francisco. That Ifshin violins over in the East Bay. You're playing on, and it's you never know what you're going to get necessarily if you're borrowing a bass, but this has a wonderful sing to it, and with the spirochores, but they're very easy to bow.
Yes, yeah, I'm so happy with it. Absolutely, I want to take it home. The size is perfect, and it's everything sounds good on this bass. Pizzicato, arco, and effects also, and it's very easy to play. The strings are very well set, and I supposed to take another bass, but at the last moment somebody brought this bass back, and it was a jazz player. He said, "Try this one, maybe you like it." And I fall in love with it. So I say, well, I have the tool to play alone, because you know when you're alone, you don't have anybody to lie on. So you need a really good bass. Otherwise, I bet I'd rather don't play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Renting a bass, I mean, is always always a problem.
It's always a
problem.
risk, and then
So-
when you're playing solo, it's even more because it's
Yeah.
just you and the bass.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Yeah, in Argentina, you know, I have a beautiful Italian bass, and sometimes when bassists want to rent a good bass, I rent it to them, or sometimes I just lend it to them. And it was Ron Carter a couple of years ago in Cordova, and he was the manager. Was a very nice girl. She called me like 20 times. How is your bass? How is your bass? Is that easy to play? How, you know? I said, well, don't worry, it's a beautiful bass. Because she said, well, I was in Brazil and we rent a bass, and it was impossible to play. And Ron was so stressed out and said, I hope your bass is easy to play. So I brought two basses. I said, well, let's choose, and I bring always, you know, extra strings or something to make lower or higher the string, but. He was happy with it, but I can imagine how stressful it is if you are so famous and you have to do your best all the time, and you come to a new place and you rent a bass. I mean, every bass is so different. I get lost with my own bass positions, tuning, you know, and then you know, you know, half of an inch then makes it different.
Yeah. It can. That's the challenge of our instrument. But boy, if you can get set up with a good instrument, traveling, it's like being a flute player. It's so much easier than with the big trunk and hoping it gets on the plane and all of that.
See, there was something else. You know, renting basses is something. It's a lottery.
Yeah.
You never know. So I'm happy with that.
Well, maybe we could hear some playing on this beautiful bass. Do you have?
Yes.
What would you?
Well, you told me that people is enthusiastic about tango or listen a little tango.
Yeah.
I will play a little bit of a Piazzolla tango. It's called Adios Nonino, that he wrote for his father. And I made an arrangement. I don't know. I hope Piazzolla doesn't get mad. But, Gustavo, it's not so. You know, he was so temperamental, you know.
I love it. Oh, I love it.
Something like that.
Oh, that's so cool. What a great arrangement.
Something like that. Something fault now.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
It's always very difficult, tricky. These melodies.
Wow, it's great.
I like to play this kind of pieces. I haven't done it before, just tango alone, but I enjoy it. So I was listening to all tangos to see which one I can arrange, especially tangos that they don't play very often, because they're one of my critics about tango is they always play the same, or mostly the same tangos, and I just get tired of listening. These two, absolutely, I'm not out of the. But I like to experiment with all music. I have a friend who lives near my house. He's a very old-fashioned guy, and he plays very old-fashioned guitar, and he knows so many pieces I never ever hear in my life. So I say, "Oh, can I write this?" He doesn't write any music, he's a blacksmith actually. He has huge hands, and I write the chords, and I try to make a little arrangements of these old tangos that he knows, all choros, all many old music he knows that I never hear before. So it's nice to know people that have this very old background and they still play, because there's not many anymore.
Oh, what a find. How great to have somebody like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to learn as much as I can from him,
Well, and then you've got your own compositions. You say that you have some alternate tunings that you.
I experiment a lot with different tunings. The first kind of tuning I was using was with low D, and then I had a German bass at home who had is for 5 strings. So I was experimenting with 5 strings, but I didn't like the sound because there was too much pressure on the instrument, so it makes the instrument too dark. And then I love one tuning I normally use is instead of the A string, I use it half a tone higher, B flat, and the E string I put it in E flat.
Oh, wow.
That's very nice tuning.
Yeah.
And the last tuning I discovered before I came here is the D I tuned in C, and the E I tuned in F.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Oh, cool! I love
Thank
it.
you.
I love it. It's the just the sonorities that you get with that tuning. It's just really
beautiful,
It's
huh?
really beautiful.
I just found it by chance, and it works perfect. And also to make chords or you double stops, because it's fifths and opens to another world. So I love it. The chords that normally you will have. you will need a giant hand to do it.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing when you throw some of those intervals and you get the fifths in there. It's just like, yeah, it just opens up this whole other resonance. And just the way it sits on the hand is just really.
I love it. So I got a couple of tunes that I tune with that, and I really enjoy it. I have promised to write it down because I don't know. I write it as of like as this instrument will be tuned normally because and then I write under the note I say the real sound, but I write it normally. Otherwise, it would be too difficult to read.
Yeah. That's the challenge with notating when you're
notating
getting your head,
is something else.
Yeah.
Especially for me because I have very very bad memory. You know, I'm playing even the tune in the middle of the tune. So my memory is always it was crazy because you know I was always like that. I think two things at the same time. So I'm playing this, but I think, yeah, next tune I can play that tune, you know, and I get distracted sometimes. And with writing is the same. So, you know, if I don't write about where the composition is in 2 weeks, I don't remember that. And sometimes you get the chance to play a lot of concerts or to be really active with music. But you know, I'm from Argentina, and Argentina is going always up and down, and now it's completely downhill. And musicians are having a really hard time to survive, to eat, to buy strings, you know. And so many of the concert places or clubs are closing down because the economic situation. So it's very very rough. And so when I'm very active, I remember the music, but I had it in my hand. But then after in my house, you know, I just normally have to cut the wood for the fire and take my kid to the school, and I get distracted, and then I forget.
Yeah.
So I say I have a lot of notation. I get my books. And I'm notating is I like it. So many people say, why don't you record it with the phone or so? Yes, but if you want to make a change, then you have to find the file of that recorded and then record it again, and you don't know which one is the last one or whatever. So I like to write it down. Of the old school.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. That's great. Well, I love the sonorities that you explore and the just what you're doing on the bass, and it's just a really interesting. I hear all these different stylistic influences coming through in your playing, and it's really cool. And it's really cool to have you here in San Francisco too. It's great, and twice in not too long either.
Yeah, I got the chance to play like 5 or 6 times in different places for friends and also people that I didn't know, and they opened the places for me to play, and I really have to thank Eric from Berlin Beckett and the guys at the Medicine for Nightmares. I don't know if you know the place.
Yep.
Beautiful place, and there's a lot of going on, and there's a lot of musicians going, you know, in and out, and with experimental and so on, and that keeps the city life alive. You know, those are the places that I like to play because I know that they are, you know, sustaining the creativity and the movement in the city. You know.
It's a great town for creative music and all sorts of, and I used to live in Chicago for years, and they have a good scene here, but this is just, there's so much going on, and it's been a place that's historically been really vibrant for all different kinds of musical styles, and you know, we've got the symphony and the opera, of course, but then it's very open and inviting, and very curious, open-minded kind of place, I found.
See, it's an amazing city. Actually, before I came here, I was thinking about San Francisco. That's inspired, you know, these hills and the wind, you know, the ocean air, and the views. And the city is my favorite city in the world. I mean, I love it. And every time I come here, I feel inspired, and I want to come back again every time. You know, every time. It's like one with Brazil. It happens the same to me. When I leave, I cry.